Hello, everyone. This is Brad Johnson here, and I want to welcome you all to the June episode of Inside the Secret Space Program. Last month, we had a really incredible interview with both Ileana and Randy Kramer, and we shared a lot of great information. And of course, we're going to have a lot of great information for you in this month's episode of Inside the Secret Space Program. So basically, what's happening in July is at the end of the July, I'm going to be going to Pittsburgh to film the Inbound movie, the short film. So there won't be a July episode for the Secret Space Program, but there will be an August one. And I'm going to see if I can bring Randy Kramer back on for the August episode as well too, and share some more great insight about what's happening. So we'll be without a July episode, but I'm going to see if we can do an early August episode in compensation. But before we get started today, there's just a couple of announcements. There's our Reality Whisperer webcast. It's coming up this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And our special guest is Zion Zeta, and we will be talking about ET contactees. And so Zion Zeta herself is an ET contactee, of course, to fit the bill of the show. And we're going to have a lot of great conversations, so feel free to join us Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Reality Whisperer YouTube channel and the Reality Whisperer webcast. And of course, coming up on Sunday, July 10th, is the next Reality Whisperer pay-per-view webinar, Astro Creations, Thought Forms, and Technology Construction. So Jonas is really going to be coming through a lot in this class. I'll be teaching some aspects of it as well too. Being able to look into how to create thought forms, how to work together with certain forms of astro-based technologies that actually extraterrestrials use quite often as well. And so we're going to be looking into how everything here is engineered in the astral realm, how you can actually invoke singularity, how you can utilize singularity as a natural power source for yourself to function as an antenna to connect to other particular realms and connect with other beings, as well as in that sense utilizing that ability to enhance many different forms of personal transformations within yourself. So again, you can go to realitywhisperer.com and you can check out the Astro Creations poster there. Click on that and you can register. And again, that is on Sunday, July 10th. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started today with Inside the Secret Space Program. For everybody who's tuning into this live right now, you can feel free to use the Q&A app that you see on the Google Plus Hangouts video player. Just feel free to click on that, and you can go ahead and post your questions. And we'll be taking your questions a little later on. So we're going to be here for about 2 hours today. So probably about the last half hour, last 45 minutes, we'll be taking questions. All right, so again, I want to introduce the panelists today for this round table discussion virtually. And this is Justin Ybarra. Justin, thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Awesome. And of course, we have once back again, Ileana. Ileana, thank you for being here too.
Thank you, Brad. It's good to be here.
Great, excellent. So again, really looking into a lot of the updates that's been happening, because we were talking a little bit off air about how things have been going. And Lena wanted to share in regards to the type of updates that you've been receiving, perhaps from the NSHAR or again other particular forms of faculties.
Yeah, I have been remembering interesting things from my meeting with the NSHAR about 4 months ago, and that's the Inner Earth group that has been in contact with Corey Good. It's basically Korea, Karina, Orislava, and another gentleman that were talking to me 4 months ago when I went to Inner Earth for a visit. And we were talking about the fact that I had seen 2 visions of the future for Earth, for Gaia. One of the visions was where the planet had ascended and it had a utopia-type environment where everything was pristine, no pollution, no wars. It was just beautiful jungles and forests. So basically, it had ascended into the 5th dimension, totally 5th. It was beautiful. So they asked to see that, and they asked to see the other version, which was where the New World Order government had actually come into power, and there was World War III in progress. A lot of fighting, weapons being fired, cities destroyed. So basically, my 2 visions were 2 different divergent timelines, one positive, one negative. Mm-hmm. They were asking me, Korea, I call her Korea. For some reason, when I see her, it sounds like not Korea, but Korea, something like that. The pronunciation is interesting. So she was asking me, well, we've been talking to you for a long time. Do you realize that we had told you originally that we're not from this planet, that we're off-world? I said, yes, I know, but I know that you're from Earth because I've had previous lifetimes in inner Earth, so I know you feel very familiar to me. We've been in contact in previous lifetimes before. And she's like saying, wow, so you remember? I said, yes, I do. And I said, it's very important for the people of Earth on the surface to be united as a planetary group and not be separated. And I said, you guys need to work more towards doing that, helping the surface people of the Earth to come as a united group of people, to have something like the United Federation of Earth or something like that. And she was saying, okay, we're going to be in negotiations with the Earth Alliance, with the SSB programs, and other ET off-world contacts that they know. And then when Adronis was talking about the Galactic Constitution this week, I realized that that's what they're working on. That's why they had asked to meet with me 4 months ago and to ask for my opinion and to see the timelines that I had seen. It was important for them to have those memories of those visions in order to start working on these negotiations more and to get more of their groups in on this. Because not all the groups are agreeing on full disclosure, not even all the inner Earth groups. Some of them feel more.
Is there a reason why there's such a separation between people who want to, but these groups that want actually to bring about this type of disclosure? Is there a reason why some are holding back?
Yes, it's because of the aggressiveness that they've seen this happening throughout Earth's history from Babylonian times and onwards. This aggressiveness, and a lot of interference from other ET species as well. So they've seen all of this and they're like, we don't want any part of this. We don't want our genetic coding to be diluted with this aggressiveness, this human ambition, this drive for success. You know, we are a very passionate species, humans on this planet, on the surface, and we just go for it. We don't just sit and wait and, you know, we make up our mind, we do it. They're very careful and they're very logical and they think about it before they make any firm decisions because they are aware of the wheel of karma, how it works. If you do this, there could be consequences. We are not so aware of it. We're just very passion-driven and we just go for it. And then the karma comes in at some point to catch up with us. For them, it doesn't catch up with them right away. It could take hundreds of years before they'll feel the karma of decisions that they've made. So they're thinking very carefully about what they're going to do. The Ashtar have decided they're going to work on the Galactic Constitution with the Earth Alliance and with the SSBs and other ETs they're in contact with. The other inner Earth groups are still thinking about it. They're leaning more towards doing it, but they're still thinking about it. So it's an ongoing process, and they told me it's going to take about 10 years for the Galactic Constitution to come into play, where disclosure would be happening on the planet, and we're going to get all of these technologies, clean up pollution, stop the wars, phase out the financial system eventually for fair trading agreements, because that's what they do in inner Earth anyways. They have these beautiful port trading cities, and they basically trade. That's how they do stuff, fair trading.
Yeah, from what Adronis was stating as well, too, in the previous video, is that, oh, Justin, you have to mute yourself because we're getting a bit of feedback on your phone. Justin, we just may have to get you muted for a second. There's some feedback on you.
Okay.
I'll just mute you here. There we go. Anyways, yeah, from what Adronis was saying in the past video is that he was talking about probably within the next 2 to 6 years we're going to see probably one of the first phases of the Constitution coming together. So it may represent the idea that there's a first phase or something in the beginning works that come through in regards to an established agreement, but then of course being able to carry out that agreement could take quite a bit of time after that. in regards to that. Now, have there been anything that you've heard within like the SSP or within the Earth Alliance pertaining to the idea of the Galactic Constitution, or has there been any word in regards to other beings that have talked about this?
Well, there's a lot of the confederations, the super federations, the ETs, they've said we're signing off yes on this, and the SSPs are working out the logistics, how to make this possible. What I've been hearing a lot of chatter from the Voice of God technology is they're thinking, how are we going to do disclosure? That's what the SSP is thinking. Once this, Galactic Constitution comes into play, how are we going to give disclosure to the public on the surface of the planet? Will we do it holographically? Will we take over the media sources and just make a worldwide announcement so everybody will hear it? What I've been seeing telepathically is that one of their plans was to turn on everybody's TVs, their cell phones, their iPads, whatever they have, turn it on so you could do a full broadcast worldwide. That was one of their plans, so it's in progress. They're really thinking about how are we going to do this so the people aren't scared. The people get the truth, but they're not overwhelmed, that the governments aren't, in chaos, that how to do this properly so it's taken in peacefully without chaos. That's what they're working on, the logistics of how all of this will happen, the disclosure process. Because everybody's talking disclosure. It's alternative media sources, it's even in the mainstream to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
On Fox News, for example, we're seeing UFOs, we're seeing this. We don't think it's a comet. We don't think it's, swamp gas or something, the general excuses that they used before for cover-up. That's no longer being accepted by the public. So the SSPs are really working with the Earth Alliance to figure out an acceptable way that close to full disclosure can come out. People could get the truth, but that the chaos won't be a factor in all of this. And there's other alliances like the Dragons. They're being very careful about preserving certain ways of life. Because not all of them are agreeing how this should go down, but they're coming to a consensus on disclosure that it needs to happen. We need to progress from the 21st century a little bit higher in evolution because we're behind schedule somewhat, like 5 years behind. Disclosure should have been happening 5 years ago, but
probably been longer than that, even quite a long time ago. No,
but it's been suppressed. So even we don't even have electrical cars everywhere yet. So we're behind schedule. But so they're working on agreements for how to bring it all together. So we are on schedule. So they're working. There's a lot of behind the scenes work going on that right now, and I've heard a lot of chatter. Well, how are we going to do this? Who's going to see it? When do we put it out? It's all about logistics, about the when and the why and the how.
Well, Corey has talked about the idea of having like a very large data dump or something in regards to that will really kind of shake the public forum in that way, to then being able to give some type of opportunity for the idea of disclosure. Is that something that you've also received, like a data dump or something very large, something maybe even representing like some type of economic collapse or some type of data dump that was coming through to kind of jolt people out of their reality and then being able to give this opportunity? It also feels like, from what Randy has been saying as well too, that this upcoming election may also be the pristine time of having something like that happen.
Well, what the SSB wanted to do with it was a general worldwide broadcast that ETs exist. Step one, that's phase one. That's light disclosure with holographic technology, blue beam technology, where they beam the transmission down to the Earth and say, look, this is what exists, this is how it's done, blah, blah, blah. Worldwide transmission on all your media sources, alternative and broadcast media. That's phase one. Phase two is some sort of data dump on all the other stuff, the technologies, what's available. There's going to be quite a few data dumps. They're not going to do a massive one. They're going to do like chunks of 6 different data dumps so people can wrap their minds about what's going on. It's not going to be a whole like dump it in your face and you take it all in. It's too much. They're going to do it in phases, gradual phases. They have something like 6 different phases for how they'll do this. And I'm sure they're going to do something in the election because it's an opportunity. It's looking like Hillary might be winning. It's close to
Yeah,
Trump.
that's what I've unfortunately received as well too, is that Clinton will get it. But I feel it's kind of like what has happened in Iceland in regards to the idea of a political overthrow. I think will also happen in the United States. Something of that nature, that there will just be so many people standing up because there's so much more, pro Bernie Sanders for people in that way. And I think that's really what I was seeing when I was seeing these visions of Bernie Sanders. I was just seeing like millions of people, coming to him and say, oh yeah, he's going to get it, right? And so then we kind of look at the idea of he would get it if it wasn't a rigged system. So it's really the whole idea that Clinton is pushing the buttons, and it just feels like there's going to be some type of overthrow that's going to be happening. I feel like there's going to be some type of political heat that's going to be coming together when she gets into office, and there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to basically demand that she gets voted out, that she gets kicked out of the White House in that particular way. So this is again representing, I feel, perhaps the opportunity for what has been foreseen as this very large data dump that could come out, and then being able to do the corresponding phases of disclosure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's looking like she'll get into government, but the timelines are right now in a state of change, constant change. So even though looks like she might get in, not necessarily. Anything could, at this point, anything can happen in the timelines. It can be altered and shifted. Whatever is necessary to do disclosure, whatever is necessary for the good of the planet, that's what will be done. So it looks like she's winning, but that might not be the case. She could still be indicted. Anything can happen between July to end of December, anything.
Exactly. And I think whatever happens is going to be something that's really going to be a victory, if we're looking for team light. And of course, speaking of victories, we've had the announcement of Brexit, being able to see that Great Britain has withdrawn from the European Union. And as soon as I heard about that, I was like, oh my God, that's a huge victory for Team Light in that particular way. And it feels like this is creating a snowball effect, a domino effect for a lot of other countries that are going to start leaving the European Union as well too. So this feels like that timeline that you were talking about, the idea of a new world order in that sense. This has already thrown an enormous wrench in the works pertaining to that idea. And I never really saw that idea of that particular reality happening. It's also basically that when we've crossed into 2012, we went into this inverted singularity universal effect, and this basically brewed two different realities. And so it feels like people are crossing the bridges to find out exactly where we want to go. So again, kind of like what Adronis is saying, by the end of 2016, we're going to move into that higher octave of fourth density. And it feels like what's happening right now on the planet pertaining to the Brexit, relating to the idea of the beginning stages, I would say, of the fall of the European Union. This is going to majorly snowball and cascade, and just seeing a lot of different sovereign nations coming together. So what is your sharing in regards to what you felt has happened with the Brexit situation?
Well, one of the main cabals is in the Europe. That's where it started with Europe. The cabal started in Europe and branched out to the Americas. In the beginning of Babylon. So it started there and it's going to end there, basically. It's going to fall apart. The EU is going to fall apart, and it's heavily controlled by the cabal. So the cabal thought they're going to, Britain will stay, but no, that's not how it is. And the game has switched. Basically, what I noticed when Brexit happened, gold jumped sky high. The gold went through the roof.
Yep.
So the economy is more being backed up by gold than by just printing paper money. So you can see even silver jumped a little bit in price. So you can see the changes happening. It's very subtle, but you can notice it. So, and I got an intuitive message to get more gold, to look into gold again. This is what's going on with gold. And I did. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense to invest in gold right now before Brexit happens, because it's going to jump in price. And it was validated. It was a validated, intuitive message to look into it, and it was right to do that. So I think Brexit is good, and I've been hearing chatter that a lot of the other countries are going to do the same thing.
Yeah, I've been feeling that as well. Yeah, being able to see this kind of domino effect, just being able to see one tile hit another one, and just seeing all this come together. And I think this will also affect other particular arenas rather than just the idea of the European Union. This is really, I think, teaching everybody, you got to stand up. The whole idea is that you have been so adamant about seeing how this government is not in your favor, has been very corrupt, is basically looking out for themselves, and is basically trying to create this type of tyranny. And so now we're starting to see the beginning stages of this really plummeting. It's kind of like how I've talked about in the past as well too, where you have all of these stooges, these elites in that sense, basically trying to hold up these foundations, like holding up the mighty pyramid by themselves. But eventually there's going to be a point where they will strain and they no longer can hold it up. And now these pillars are starting to collapse. What we basically have just seen with Brexit and the European Union withdrawal is one of these major pillars collapsing, just basically breaking down over its own weight. And that's kind of it. That's all you need. You need just one pillar to break until the entire foundation just gives out and everything is going to collapse. So to me, this was like a hallelujah moment. This was just doing cartwheels around the entire place. And there'll be the feeling that people will be very scared, who have been very hopelessly dependent upon the system. And this is where I feel that light workers really need to come in. It's basically that the alarm has sounded, and it's really a lot of our responsibilities to continue just to send love, to share this type of information that we're receiving, to give insight to people who feel very, very lost. It's not about them having to be on a very deep spiritual journey. It's more so on the idea that they're helping to empower themselves, which is kind of a journey within itself, of course. But I feel this is where everybody is going. And basically, I've heard a lot of talk around the internet, around Facebook, YouTube, everything, just in regards to people who are scared and they're trying to bring a very negative situation out of this. But again, that's all part of the media's plan, because they want to try and rebuild that pillar that broke off and try and get that establishment. But that's the whole idea. Once you open Pandora's box, you cannot close it. And that's basically what has happened right now. So we've just seen this box come on loose. We've seen all this stuff fire off. And now we're starting to see these pillars collapse. So it's my own feeling in that sense is that this is the call for all light workers, for all way showers, for all anything you want to call it, starseeds, etc., to really step up and really being able to spread your light. Just starting to do meditation, starting to just give great intentions, loving intentions to the planet, give loving intentions to the people, because this is going to get more intense. People think, oh, this is it. This is as bad as it can get. No, you haven't seen anything yet. And this is really, there's going to be a lot more intensity coming together, seeing a lot more of this plummeting and falling and falling and falling. And this is really why Andronis has stated that 2016 is a year of illumination, and that this is really the benchmark in moving us into fourth density, because there's going to be so much uprooting, just people ripping out roots from the ground to show all of this particular form of corruption and false agendas that have been around for so long. It's going to shock the heck out of people. I'm cleaning that up a lot, but it is really going to shock people a lot. And so really right now, this is out of any time, out of any year, out of any presence in regards to an era, this is the era where the light worker needs to stand up. You really need to give that strong inner courage to yourself and being able to cast that out to the planet, because this is where the planet will need it the most.
And not being afraid to stand up for yourself and others. If something's not working in the old system, just, if something's bothering you, bright lights at work, whatever, something in your working environment or in your other life environment, step up and say, look, this is what's going on, blah, 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 let's make a positive change. Mm-hmm. Let's take it in a different direction and change what's not working. Just don't be afraid to say it. I know it's hard sometimes, but just step up and don't be afraid to say, this is what's happening, let's change it, let's make it positive, let's make it work. So the people who are working in these environments where the lighting might not be the best, where the air quality might not be the best, get people in to change that. Don't be afraid to open up and say, look, it's not working for me. I need help here. Let's make it better. And that's just an example, one example of something that's going on with me. And I said, I can't work under this condition. I need different lighting source. And I was able to get them to order some LED lights for the workplace to see if that can help me with being able to work in a more steadier, calmer environment. Because even lights, when you change a light above your head, it can make such a world of difference, even a small little thing. And the SSB has a checklist that they're taking off. Okay, we've accomplished this, let's get this out, let's get this out. It's being done on a subtle way. That's what I'm being told intuitively right now. But they're crossing off points on the checklist that need to be done at this time. It's like cleaning house. That's what they're doing.
Exactly. All right, we're going to go ahead and bring in Justin. So Justin, if you're still with us, we're going to move on to the next part here where we're going to be looking into psionic memories as well too. So Justin, I'd just like you to kind of talk about your story and how this has happened to you relating to kind of receiving these psionic memories that are returning, because I remember you were having conversations with me about remembering certain aspects within the secret space program and of course with a lot of different ETs. So did you want to talk about how this whole psionic memory retrieval is happening for you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I was having some internet stuff, so I'm just turning my stuff back on. All right. Well, just being really real, and that's the only way I can be. In my experience, I've had a few physical injuries that started when I was 15. When I was wrestling, I had a compression of my spine, and then I messed up my knee, and I messed up my back, and then after that, I was put on a bunch of meds, and I've had a few near-death experiences, about 3 of them, and had my awakening. I actually came to Brad when I had my awakening, and a lot of intense experiences, and that's, I guess, just the beginning of, memories starting to come in, and that was a few years ago, and then I recently moved to Hawaii. And then a year and a half ago, and it was about a year and a half ago when the secret space program started to present itself to me, and I felt like I had resonation with it, and I just kind of left it alone as it was, and then these different synchronicities came to me, and as I allowed myself to just follow my intuitive feelings and experiences, more started to come to me, where I started having like more experiences with big white draconian beings, and I started having memories of being on Mars and working with mantoids and different insectoids, ant-like beings. A lot of ant-like beings is what I'm remembering, especially in being in Hawaii. Some reason ants are really attracted to me, and so as I've been here in Hawaii, I've been able to go more on the inner journey and approach what used to be fears, insecurities, concerns, worries, and really dissolve them. And as I've been doing that, I've been able to release from the pain medications that were brought into my experience from all the accidents and injuries. And an feelings started to come to me that these were events to kind of put me in a state where I didn't realize I was in 2 places at once, and started having these feelings of like me contacting myself and like feeding bits of information and just, hey, take it or leave it. And as I would resist it, I noticed I'd have different things occur that weren't the highest good. And as I was accepting more of it and just taking it as is and allowing it, I started to feel more healing, more light, and just that's when you started having your SSP programs, and I have always resonated. I've had a resonation with Sister Goddess Ileana. I subscribed to her channel probably like around the same time I subscribed to yours. I watched the videos. I never really honestly knew, put 2 to 2 together as to who she was and her channel until recently when she was on the Youth Flow and then on yours. So just things started to come full circle and wrapping together, and synchronicity that if I were to choose to ignore it, I would be acting like an ostrich, with the head in the ground.
Right.
So it's just for me to simply share my experience. I trust my experiences. I know what I feel, and through what I feel and honoring what I feel and just sharing it, I feel more healing. And in any way this I can share and bring more healing for myself and or others. That's the intention.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about the memories that you said you had on Mars. Now, when you looked into these memories, did you recall yourself as like a type of soldier or a Marine by that chance?
Oh man, well, the post that you put on of Johnny before your interview with him, it was as if that was pulled from like one of my experiences I had shared with friends, seeing different mantis beings, different insectoids, just being on different bases. It's still just coming in,
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's blossoming as I share it in moment. And one of the more intense ones was I was sharing with a friend, and we both are feeling these energies of the white draconians. And I had this feeling of like a helmet, some type of helmet being placed on the head.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like a psionic helmet, I guess you would say.
Yes, and I was experiencing this, and when I experienced this, what I felt was a meeting between white draconian and it was and tall whites, and or pardon, white draconians and mantoids coming together in a co-creation, and through that, tall whites were created. That was one of the more clear things that came to me recently, as I was sharing this psionic helmet experience.
Right. Sorry, Justin, we're getting a little bit of a breakout in your sound as well, too, so I'm not sure if you get a little bit of fluctuations in the audio. But from what you were telling me as well, too, is that you were talking to Ileana a lot as well, too, and Ileana was helping you a lot with retrieving these memories. And so that's, Ileana, that's what I want to pose to you, is that if people basically feel that they're starting to get these kind of memories, like kind of what Justin's been having, like relating to going to Mars and being able to see large white Dracos and mantis beings and the tall whites, is there a particular process that you take them through to help them with remembering a lot more of these memories?
Yes, it's really about asking yourself, is this memory real or is it an implant? First figuring that out. Because sometimes you get memories that are not real. You have to separate what's real and what's not from whatever that you were given, because memory engrams can be implanted over the truth. So you have to figure out, okay, does this feel real to me? What I went through when I was on Mars? Did I really see these white Draco? You have to ask yourself all these questions. And then you say, okay, yes, the answer fits in with the memory I remember of this happening. And is this the truth? And you get a yes or a no. It's kind of like mind dowsing. That's how I did it for myself, and that's how I do it for other people who, they tell me, I've had this experience, I've had that experience. And I ask them a series of yes or no questions, and then I probe further. Well, what else do you remember behind this memory that's really vital to these images that you're seeing? And they say, oh, but there was this also, I saw this as well. And they're like, oh, that's how that ties in with that memory that I have. Mm-hmm. So it's about making connections, putting together the filaments, and demystifying the layers of what you remember actually to see the whole truth of it. That's how it was for me and for some other people that I've worked with. And to just see both sides of the coin, to see a 3D image of this memory and to look at it from every angle to see how it fits into your world, to figure out if it's true or not, if it's just a memory engram or if it's something that really happened to you in the SSB, so you can know the difference of that. And that's just the starting point. And I always tell people, always write it down, what you remember. Always write it down or record it on audio somewhere so you can go back and have a look at this. and think about it. Well, this is what I was saying. This is something that came back to me in memory regression hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people can get really good ideas about what those memories are through hypnosis if it's done right.
Right. Now, is there a way that people, I guess you could say maybe members of the SSP, have placed in these kind of false memories? Again, is that done through like a type of hypnotic technique, or is that done through some type of technology?
It can be done through hypnotic forms, because I've learned hypnosis shamanic way. I've learned traditional hypnosis. So it can be done through hypnosis. It takes longer to do it through hypnosis. Other ways is through software. You know, certain software is connected to the medical beds, the medical pods, and they input memory engrams through electromagnetic resonance into your brain. They actually input these engrams onto you, which are false memories. They're not the same stuff that happened. Close to it, but not the same stuff. You won't remember any secrets or anything. You'll just have an implant memory. There's also drugs. They can infuse you with drugs and do it that way. That's much faster than the medical pods even. You know, they put a certain infusion of this and this and this, stick it in, and that's it. You don't remember.
Now, is that what they try to do with you, but it basically has worn off, and you basically were able to retain a lot of these memories?
Yeah. If anybody has watched the show Blind Spot, it's very interesting. It's about a woman who doesn't remember anything, and she's inserted into the FBI. Her memory was wiped on purpose so she could accomplish something in the FBI, and she volunteered for this mission. So it's something like that, basically, as an example. It's really interesting how drugs work to wipe your mind. And then at some point you start remembering little bits and pieces and putting it all back together. If you need to remember it. Some people don't remember anything of it because they don't need this in their current lifetime. I needed those memories back. I chose to remember.
Yeah.
You need to choose whether you want this back or not. That's something else that's very important. Because sometimes it could be very traumatic and it could have a negative impact on your life. Or you really need those memories back and you say, okay, I need this back. I need to retrieve this. I want this back. Because you feel like something's missing and you want these memories back. Because there's a purpose for what you'll be doing with those memories right now, like Corey is doing, like I'm doing, like Justin is doing. So it's about wanting it back. If you don't want it back, you're not going to get it. If you want it back, you'll get it back.
Exactly. Well, here's an interesting story that I've discovered as well too. Is that about a week or two ago, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I was basically working with the radionics machine that I have, a couple of them actually, and I was actually able to successfully look into some pre-lifetime memories that I was actually able to get back. And the interesting thing is that I saw myself as a Syrian being. I was seeing myself as kind of like Adronis in that particular way. I was kind of very tall. I'd say maybe like 6'7", 6'8", maybe even up to 7 feet tall. And I had this kind of long, flowing blonde hair, blue eyes, so I looked a lot like Adronis in this particular previous lifetime, just before coming into incarnation here as Brad. And I was actually seeing myself working with others as an extraterrestrial within the secret space program. And so I think this is really what's kind of captivated a lot of my attention to the SSP. And when Corey Good started talking about it, it just felt like what he was saying just was feeling like there was familiarities coming to me as well too. So I don't feel that as a human being I worked as in the SSP. I was working as an extraterrestrial in the SSP as well too. What I do remember is that I was kind of in this room, kind of like a very big auditorium in that way, and it was almost kind of like a gathering. You know, we were talking to a lot of different things. It may have even been like a type of a trade center as well too, where they do trade. But basically, I was just kind of talking to other people, and I could verbally communicate. I was moving my lips as well too. That was one brief flash scene I saw. Another one was that I was working with a couple of scientists, and I was kind of showing them these holograms. I'd basically have like I think a device in my hand, and I would show these kind of very large holographic blueprints to them to give them an understanding about helping them with engineering certain forms of technology, perhaps like spacecraft or engines. Or something of that nature. But all of these particular memories, just a couple of them, were flooding back. There was another memory too where I was able just to look outside a window and I was seeing the Earth as well too. It was kind of in this very big domicile, I guess you could say. So there was a couple of little things that were coming back to me, and again, this is kind of was showing to me. They didn't want to show me too much, but they were showing me a little tidbits here and there that this is kind of giving me the impression about why I felt so compelled to connect with the SSP, and feeling that I want to talk about it a lot more because it feels like there's been a lot of reconnection, but as an extraterrestrial human being in that particular way. And I have a couple years back seen my body in stasis, and so there is a stasis situation happening with that very body that I occupied that I saw in this pre-life memory. So it was basically as close to Adronis as I could say, and being able to see myself in the stasis pod, and then being able to contribute part of my essence to come to Earth and being able to incarnate here. So to me, it feels like this is really giving some type of good validation about the interest of the SSP, feeling that this is indeed something very real, very incredible, very large scope, large scale. That it was just it blew me away being able to look at these particular memories, especially just looking at it from an extraterrestrial's point of view. But Ileana, I imagine you have quite a few experiences like that, looking from different ET standpoints about situations, right?
Yes, I actually, as you were telling me your information about remembering working with the scientists, when I was listening to your free webcast and Adronis, somebody had asked Adronis about Ashtar.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Ashtar and what's Ashtar Command?
Yep.
I suddenly remembered quite a bit of information when I was actually working with Ashtar Command from 2000 to 2010, when the Dracos were trying to get their fleets in here to take over the planet. That was the 10-year pivotal point of where they had their window to take over completely. But Ashtar Command was working loosely with the SSP groups, and I was Ashtar's communication officer, and I was coding all the communications back and forth between Ashtar's ship and some of the SSP ships. So
are you able to describe of how Ashtar's ship looked? Because there's a lot of people that said that he's had different varieties of ship. What type of ship did you experience when you were with him?
I was more on this triangular type of ship that looks like this, like a triangle. So, and I was wearing a blue uniform.
The blue uniform, yeah, that seems...
Yeah. A lot of Ashtar's people look like blonde Nordics, very tall, blonde, beautiful people. And they also have a mix of different species on board, so it wasn't just humanoid-looking ETs. There were other species with blue skin, green skin. But we were all wearing these blue uniforms. Ashtar Command is blue uniforms.
Now, is he a Pleiadian being, or is he of some other origin?
He is half Pleiadian. There's something else, and he has a partner. Her name is Athena. So she was with him on the ship for those 10 years. So I was working closely with them and some of the SSP groups, and I was basically on their ship because they had their fleet in as well, trying to block the Draco from coming in.
So were they doing kind of like an outer perimeter type sweep?
Yes.
Just being able to work in the other side of the solar system? Yeah.
Well, they were actually on the outer perimeter of Earth and protecting the barriers for the whole solar system that we're in our solar system, and the Earth barriers. So they were working constantly on that, and they still are. They're working even more closely with the SSPs right now. The trust has been built between the SSP and Ashtar Command. Ashtar wasn't really thrilled about working with the SSPs back then. And this was about 15 to 16 years ago now.
Is he still working within the star system?
Yes, they're still here, and they're working more closely with the SSPs now. They're working with Solar Warden because right now with the barriers are more intricate around Earth and around the solar system. They're more secure now than they were before. The barriers were kind of in their infancy. The technology that was around the Earth, the electric field technology 15 years ago was not as advanced as it is now. And there's more trust between Ashtar Command and the SSPs at this moment than there was back then.
So you mentioned that there are quite a few different species that were working on board the Ashtar ships. Were you able to discover who some of these species were?
Yeah, a lot of Arcturians, Pleiadians, some elves. A lot of them are very interesting. They exist on the fourth and the fifth dimension, and some are 3D as well. So it's your more humanoid-looking species, but you can tell by the skin color it's different. Or they have a few more toes, and their hands look different, webbed. Some amphibious species as well are on there. They're not reptilian, but amphibious species as well. I'm not sure what the race is. But it's very interesting and very diversified in their belief systems.
Now, did they have a particular agenda in regards to that 10 years that you were on board? Like you said, I think they were doing some patrol. But were there other things, like what were their particular ties to Earth? Have you ever acknowledged that to you?
Yes, the agenda was to make sure that the reptilians didn't come down to Earth, that the Draco didn't get more of a foothold on the planet than they used to have. That was
So
the
they
main.
must have had, even in their ancient times, had like some type of relationship with Earth, to being able to kind of work in this way or volunteer themselves to do this work.
Yes, they've always had karmic ties with Earth, Ashtar Command. Their goal has always been to keep the negatives out as much as they could, to keep the balance going on this world, to keep it maintained, and that's what they're still doing.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've heard a lot about. Oh yeah, go for it, Justin.
Hey, Sister Ileana, something that I really, it's just like blazing, like really churning in me, resonating with me, is I feel as if I remember and working with you in like crystal rooms, like rooms that are almost like made out of crystal, and something where we were we worked together with crystal technologies, light technology, sound technology, just a lot of interaction with crystal technology and crystal work and healing. And then there is something that you mentioned with the drugging and the memories. And as you guys were just sharing like different memories, I'm just kind of like coming to realization that an experience that I had when I was living in Reno, I had conscious memory of being physically taken to like the Girk-Vickneer ships. I made a crystalline grid with the intention to like holographically take me there in my consciousness. And I remember waking up in this ship and I saw Jim Charles, I saw Takur, I saw a friend Wendy Wolf, and we were all there, and it was right before when the Girk-Vickneer ships were closed, and it was like a day or two before they were quote unquote reopening them. Takur had brought us up, and I remember laying in bed with my twin flame at the time, and just like, oh my gosh, like describing what I was experiencing, what I was seeing in this crystalline type room with Takur, and she's just, towering over us, but it's like sitting down on something. And then I just remember as if I was like channeling Jim, like in what he was saying. I remember like when the experience was done, I just grabbed my phone and I texted Jim. And then when Jim woke up the next morning and read the message, he was just like, oh my gosh, I thought that was just a dream. And shortly after that, I had another experience where I felt as if the ship with the Yagyel, the Plagel, and the Psionic picked me up and showed me our solar system. We went through the rings of Saturn, and then I remember going through the Milky Way galaxy where they showed how I believe it was the Milky Way and the Andromedan galaxies are coming together, and how that has a significance in our experience. And then they took me to the collective of the 12 central suns.
Justin, are you able to hold the phone a little bit more closer to you, just so we can have a little bit more of an easier time hearing it, because it's still kind of faint?
Oh, pardon. Yes, sorry for many parts.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, it's just I really wasn't understanding that a lot of these experiences, I guess I could more loosely connected to the secret space program. And it really wasn't until you guys were sharing some of your experiences that it was just, when you feel that feeling in your gut when you say yes to something, it just resonates as yes. That's just, it was just like burning, like I need to get this out.
Well, I think that's basically it. Is when you start having these conversations, this was really stimulating a lot of those kind of memory engrams as well too. But let's ask that question to Ileana. Ileana, are you familiar with these kind of crystal rooms or crystal chambers that Justin talks about?
Yes, yeah, I know Takare. She's from the Fit-Near Alliance. She has a big mothership, and they have this awesome crystal room over there, and it's purple. There's a lot of purple colors there, and they have these hanging crystal lights from the ceiling of this crystal room. It's like, it looks like amber, this beautiful orange yellow type of light that's coming in from the crystals hanging. They have massive, massive crystals hanging from the ceiling of this healing room. And there's all these quartz crystals all around, and like aqua aura blue crystals in the room itself. And they have these little, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a blue or white couch where you sit on, and the energy beams down from this huge crystal from the ceiling, and it heals you. Literally heals everything in your body. So that's what I remember from going up on Takere's ship, because I've been doing a lot of work with Takare and Jim Charles, and I remember everything. I have ocular implants, etheric implants, so I remember everything that happens to me. I never forget what's the experience I've had on the ships. So, and I've physically gone on Takere's ship, and what I mean by physically is I have a holographic avatar. That's a physical body that goes up there. So I'm able to get healing that way from that crystal room, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful room.
Now, do you have memories of Justin being in the SSP as well too? Like, have you had that kind of shared space experience?
No, I don't remember Justin. I remember Corey to a certain degree, that I crossed paths with him a few times.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't remember meeting other individuals. That is closely, those are the memory engrams that are implanted, so you don't actually remember meeting other individuals.
Yeah.
They layer the memory engrams more on that, so you don't really remember who you've met. You start getting your experiences back of what you did, how you did it. But when you work in the SSPs, you work in a specific section. There's sections. Section 5 is about gathering. Section 8 is about releasing information.
Oh, sorry, Lena, could you go back to Section 5? We just had a brief cutout there. If you can talk about Section 5 again.
Sure. Section 5 was where I worked 10 years in the information sector.
Okay.
I was in an information center on a spaceship. It was around Mars, I was thinking. It's around Mars. And it's like everybody's wearing their uniforms, right? And I'm wearing this either white uniform or a blue one. And I'm in this beautiful room always, where there's living bio walls and stuff with plants. Because I always wanted to be near plants, and I have my own computer desk. It's basically my own huge room on the ship that I have. And you can change holographically how you want the room to look like and what you want replicated in it. And it's basically your own little information center on the ship. And I had that, and I was constantly coding, decoding information and passing it on from section to section. I was in Section 5. I pass it on to Section 8, and they'd release the information as it was needed. You
said that you were on a ship doing this tasks?
In space around Mars.
Well, do you know the name of the ship or what it was called?
I can't remember right now. I do have it. I do know the name of it, but I can't For the life of me, I can't remember right now.
But it was kind of like a large kind of flagship in that way, because Randy Kramer's talked about his service on the Nautilus, like to being this kind of very large,
Yeah.
almost like battleship in space. Is that kind of in that way, or is it more kind of like a research vessel? Or?
It was more of a mid-sized research vessel, but it had warfare capabilities. It could.
Defense systems and all that.
Yeah, it had It's kind of like research/warship. And it was an informational hub of a ship where information was passed in and out to different other ships, and personnel tracking as well, who goes off the ship, who goes off planet, on planet, tracking who's terrestrial, non-terrestrial, off of Earth, on Earth, Mars, and other planets in the system. They had a lot of ties in with Jupiter and the Jupiter station, keeping track of who went there and who went off the space station on Jupiter.
Was this ship part of the Solar Warden fleet?
I would have to say no. Not part of Solar Warden. It was more of an independent ship that's assigned to Section 5. It's all compartmentalized into different sections.
Okay.
The sections loosely know about each other, but they don't really know what work goes on.
So I'm wondering if maybe like Solar Warden and Radiant Guardian were kind of like just like the battle fleets. Were they the ones that were kind of like the patrollers? That were kind of like Solar Warden would do the inner area of the solar system. Radiant Guardian would do the outside, and if they were just basically militarized in that way.
Yes, and the ship that I was stationed around Mars, monitoring the airspace traffic, who goes in, who goes out, relaying information back and forth,
right.
Gathering data and intel on the air traffic that's going on in this star system, and closer around Jupiter as well. That was the main concern, what's going on around Jupiter, who's coming in, who's going out. What are the trade agreements? Just having the information to dossiers on personnel, on agreements, on negotiations, and passing that around between sections.
Interesting. Very good. Well, let's go back to Justin. And Justin, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the white Draco that you were seeing as well too. Justin, are you able to share a little bit more about the memories about how these Draco appeared, or what you feel maybe their energies were, or maybe what their posture was, like what you felt maybe their intentions were when you had this experience with them?
Yes. So the white Draco, to me, when I first felt it, it came as an idea because I was feeling or hearing like a lot of fear-based ideas in regards to Dracos and just like low vibe beings. And the idea came to me like, hey, would you possibly be able to imagine one or a few groups of Dracos that were able to learn, like the cosmic Christ, consciousness, and were able to align from a heart-centered and aligned fashion and become, pulled into like an idea of unified oneness and unconditional love. And I was just like, yeah, why not? I didn't really feel like how that would hurt, And then I just felt like I was looking at this wing white, like Draco, about like 10, 12, some even bigger, like 16, 18 feet tall, with a beautiful like pearl, with like a pearl almost like skin, like a pearl, like it almost looked like a pearlescent type skin, and then like these like a golden type plating as like adornments and whatnot.
Now, were these Dracos in that sense more harmonious to you? Were they kind of more aligned to that of the service energy rather than the malevolent energy? Oh, sorry, Justin.
Could you try that part?
Yeah, I was just asking what the relationship would be with these Draco. Were they more kind of in service to the idea of harmony, or were they kind of more in the idea of malevolence? Are you still there, Justin? Hello?
They cut them off.
I'm here, sorry. No, okay. I'm here. I was just muting, trying to hear so they just approached me. Yeah, so they approached me as this energy, and as I just began to just interact with them, I just felt just different. I felt just different shifts, beneficial shifts in my own energy. And as I worked with their energies, um, I just felt a more neutral feeling, and then I felt more, I guess, more integrity in myself. I felt like I had a higher amount of respect for all existence. I had this feeling of like integrity, more integrity. Um,
So it felt like they were
and
basically almost befriending you in that particular way through this experience.
yes, yes, and just as a way to just an attempt to just like, hey, it's like, we've been playing this role, or we've been put in this role for a while, and not, everything changes, everything shifts, everything transforms. Not all energy just stays the same. It transforms and blossoms. And I just felt like it was going to be beneficial from my experience because I could see myself as a Draco. So I'm like, I'm going to be benefiting myself because at the core, at the brain, they say we have the reptilian core to our brain. So I was just thinking to myself, well, that's just probably me reaching out to myself then, and I just had to put my hand out there. And as I did that, it improved my own experience. And it dissolved fears, it dissolved concern. It allowed me to feel more comfortable, not so much in like a survival mode. I didn't feel so concerned about like, ideas of, war and this and that. I was able to really focus more on my inner journey and how I can use my abilities to fully be of service to all existence, and through that I would benefit my own experience. So it's more just, to me, it wasn't about what they looked like, what they were doing. It was more about reaching out to help in my own journey, in my highest good, and to be able to live my experience.
So there's been a lot of enlightenment that you've gone through just looking into these memories and seeing how it's transformed you in a more divine way.
Yes, and
That's
it's
good.
funny too because I never resonated with like the Star Trek or Star Wars movies. I never watched them and never resonated with it until kind of like I started accepting the SSP idea. And as I did, then it's kind of like, oh, now I can kind of get on. And then I watched that new Star Wars Rogue One recently, and I'm not gonna front, I found myself like kind of crying and like having like feelings of like resonation in certain parts of the movies. Of like, wow, like it felt like it was a catalyst, to spark memories or to spark these experiences. So I had like ideas, or guidance to maybe go watch some of these other movies or read different books to help with sparking some of these memories and experiences, and to help just more of the healing and more of that growth.
Well, it's also a good thing. It's a very relieving thing as well too to see a lot of the Draco in that sense that work together in favor of one's own harmony as well too. Because Ileana, you've told me two stories too about the Draco and what they've been doing. Even when we had Randy Kramer on last month, he was talking about Draco ships that were showing up on Mars, and the indigenous reptilians just basically blasting them right out of the sky as well too. What is the history that you are aware of, Ileana, pertaining to the Draco? Like, have you found out a lot more about where they come from? Maybe the different types of classes that there are, and maybe their relationship to Earth.
Well, the Draco have had a long, long relationship with Earth going back before Atlantis, when civilization was before even Babylon. They're way, way back. They've always been energetically drawn to this planet because it's a vortex hub of evolution. This planet is literally a vortex evolutionary hub for all species. That's why many of them come here in the first place. That's why we're so drawn to this solar system to come back, because we evolved so quickly. The Draco want to evolve as well, but because they come from a different universe. They're not from this universe. They're not from our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
They come from a universe of dominance and mentality of taking over. And they have a caste system. But there are Draco who are healers as well. The white pearly skinned Draco who are healers.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to dominate you. They don't want to take you over. They like to learn. They like to come together and learn from other species. So not all Draco are horrible.
Yeah.
They're not all horrible.
And you said there's a second caste as well too, like red colored or orange Draco.
There's red colored Draco. There's brown colored Draco. There's green. There's grayish blue. It's more than 2. It's like 5 subspecies of Draco. The ones that I know of are the warrior caste, the ones that abducted me and the scientists. Those are the 2 that I know. They were grayish blue Draco. And I remember when, because I was taken from the age of 2 to 10, I remember they were working on time travel technology. And as a little girl, one time that they took me, I was standing and watching them, how they opened this time portal with a time machine technology. And then all of a sudden, all the computer technology on the base where they did this just blew up. Because the time frame of the machine itself, there was like a time warp, and it just blew up. And I was just standing there. There was a glass window where I was standing as a little girl. I was about 4 or 5. And I saw this explosion of this time machine. And it felt like everything was breaking. The energetic alignment, containment field was breaking. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to explode. But it didn't. Then it all just contained itself. And like it never happened. They were working with time travel technology. Like there was a containment field, like it all exploded, then it all went back to normal, like it never happened. And I found an image of this actually on the internet 2 days ago, and I'm like, this is confirmation. So it's like I feel like I left little breadcrumbs for myself to discover to help me trigger these memories. There's stuff on the internet that I left behind for myself from the future to remember.
Well, it's interesting to talk about time in that sense. Do you feel that this may have also been some particular types of regulated time travel that they're starting to do? Like if you had personal interactions with the Time Core people?
Yes, I did. They were actually showing me how they open natural time portals on planets. Basically, they use their own life force energy to interact with the electromagnetic system of the planets. So your physical vibration, your aura field, they use their auras to basically interact with the electromagnetic field of the planet. They fuse those 2 energies together, and boom, they open a natural Stargate portal. This is
Pardon me. So you're speaking of certain human beings having the ability to create a vortex through will and intention, correct?
Yes, I'm talking about the Time Corp, the future people of the Earth.
Okay, so one of my first readings I had with Brother Jim Charles, Takur came through and shared with me an ability of mine to create these vortexes, to create these these vortexes in time and space. It was actually like shortly after I had my first session with Brad a couple of years ago, in which I had contacted the Mantoids, and they mentioned something about that ability, and it was confirmed later. So that's essentially how it works. It's just through the person's will and intention, certain people are able to do this.
Now, is this something that they're physically doing, or is this something like an astral body they're doing, or is it with their actual physical body?
They're doing this with the physical body, the time warp, because they exist outside of our time. They're in a
Right.
different time dimension on Earth, actually. They're in a different
That's
time.
what Adronis, yeah, that's what Adronis was talking about. They're from different kind of contingency timelines from Earth. And
Yes.
they basically, you could say, he said that they're basically about 2 or 3 steps ahead from our current timeline, if we understand it. And that
Yes.
there's different divisions from different centuries as well, too, that are dealing with different things. So
Yes.
we basically have this one starting 2 or 3 steps ahead with us that is
Yes.
working with us.
So what they're basically able to do is work with their own auric field, the aura that's around all of us. We all have an aura. So they're basically able to interact with their aura, with the electromagnetic field of the planet, wherever planet they're on, Earth or whatever other planet. They're able to intermingle these two energies together and open a time portal, a natural occurring time portal without any technology involved. That's organic portal technology. That they, well, it's your inner body technology, natural organic inner body technology that they're using, and I'm calling it technology. I don't know what else to call them. It's
Well,
not
have they explained like how they're able to siphon, like monitor these timelines? Is it like a computer system that they have, or is it all kind of conscious, being able to kind of multiplicity your consciousness into these different timelines to intervene to make sure it stays sanitized?
they can consciously just sift through the timelines and open these portals and go in and change stuff, and they can do it technologically. If it's a far, far off point in future, then they'll use technology to look into it. If it's just altering a timeline that's very close to the present, they do it consciously.
You know, it's very interesting because this brings up a very interesting point, because there's been a lot of talk on the internet about seeing these points of history with time travelers coming through. There is one particular example of a Charlie Chaplin movie called The Circus, where there was basically this woman that was in the shot and basically carrying like a type of cell phone and being able to, pick herself up into the shot. There's been quite a few other particular types of occurrences as well too about these time travelers basically intervening. There was one other particular form of video. It's hard to say if it was authentic or not, but basically of this person crossing the street and this guy just zooming in with like light blazing behind him and basically able to touch this guy. The entire screen illuminates and all of a sudden they teleport to the other side to preventing this guy from getting hit. So it feels like maybe if these are indeed legit, that these may be time travel or time corp interventions.
I have a question for you both. I'm assuming yes. But you guys probably get a lot like, oh, I saw your clone, or something like I could have sworn I saw you walking across the street. Where people see like a doppelganger, or almost as if you kind of unconsciously sent a holographic projection of yourself through a co-creation simply because you kind of wanted to see the person, the other person wanted to see the person, and wanted to have an experience.
Yeah, that would be background people, Justin. So basically, this is kind of what Dolores Cannon has talked about in the past as well. She refers to it as backdrop people. Dronos has referred to them as background people or living extras in that way. Basically, what Dronos has explained is that we create other duplicate bodies of ourselves that basically function as stand-ins in different parts of the world. So basically, where I am right now in Vancouver, BC, Canada, there could be another duplicate of me, just completely unconscious of my own awareness of it, that is basically walking down the street in Europe, maybe dressed in different types of clothing, to function as a particular type of stand-in. And so basically you could refer to these as background people, backdrop people, living extras, or living stand-ins as well too. So those things have been quite interesting to ponder, and that there has actually been some experiences. I've even had some people who have emailed me and saying, Brad, were you in Europe a while ago? I'm like, no, I've never been to Europe, right? So there's just these feelings where people could swear that they saw me in different parts of the world. And I said, no, I've never been there, right? So it's very interesting how we're seeing this phenomenon unfolding as it pertains to background people or backdrop people.
Or there's your higher self that exists on another timeline, and you can talk to your higher self actually. Mm-hmm. So, and it all ties in with time travel, because these are all aspects of time travel. And sometimes you even see your higher self and talk to it, and you're like, whoa, but this is a future timeline that I'm seeing. You get glimpses of the future while you're doing that, while you're talking to that other self that is you, that is a higher self of you. And you see time frames and you're like, oh wow, well, that's...
You just tapped into something there, Ileana. That happened to me when I was on a bus trip. I experienced being homeless before I moved to Hawaii. And when I was leaving Texas and on this bus trip, I just ended up next to this guy. He ended up being some type of Native American shaman medicine man. And I just kept on, there was things he was just saying and whatnot, and the way he shared, I had that feeling as if it was a manifestation of my higher self, confirming, guiding, and then he gave me his email, he gave me his Facebook, and when I went to look it up, there was like nothing there.
Very interesting.
And like today, this what I'm wearing is a form of something that I look like in the SSP program. It's one of the looks I had. Metamorphing, just changing the appearances, changing looks. Like you can really change yourself by putting on a wig, changing your makeup, changing your clothes. You can take on a whole other personality. And when you're doing these time travel shifts, you will look differently as well, depending on what your mission is, where you're going, what you're doing. These time corps, they change their looks as well to suit what the mission is, mission parameters. They plan mission parameters quite carefully. So somebody doesn't see them as they're supposed to look like and recognize, oh, that's you. What are you doing here? So they take care to change their appearance as well. It's like metamorphing. You slightly alter your appearance, and then I'm walking on the street. You might not recognize me from the side view because I have a wig on and I look different. So it's just about, through this time travel stuff, and as you evolve, you also change physically in appearance. You start to either morph into your ET blueprint, your original blueprint, or as you get healthier, you get skinnier, you get, your appearance changes because your age regressing yourself. You become healthier as you physically.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful just having me just subtle and huge confirmation validations. I just remember having a vision of myself when I was laying in bed, like when I was 23. Rough spot in my life, and I just remember seeing myself. I felt like I was on the beach, long hair, just really happy, and just like, I like how I look with long hair, and I felt like skinnier and just felt better, and I'm like, I'd like to get to that point. And then now I'm in Hawaii, have long hair, and happier, more excited than I've ever been, especially to that moment when I experienced that. And it's neat that you mentioned how just changing little things, that it really does. It can assist with that change. I've always felt as if I've been somewhat of a chameleon. I felt like I could always mingle throughout mixed crowds and connect with a wide range of people. I've always been able to connect with almost anyone relatively effortlessly. And I feel that's a big trait of my experience in the SSP.
And it feels like that seems to be a common trait with chameleonic connection, mirroring other people, being able to adapt with those certain forms of reflections.
Yeah, and just being able to change your personality actually and act a different way. So, because I think Corey had talked about this a while back, that you're trained in the SSP to blend in, to change your appearance, to change your personality, especially if you're out on missions. If you're out on missions, this is part of that type of training, and I was trained to do that because I did a lot of information gathering. So I call it being dolled up, the doll look. Change, like, all this being very pretty looking, wearing dresses, wearing makeup that's very exotic, depending on where I was put in, what information I was told to retrieve, negotiate this, negotiate that, get this information, pass off that information. So it involved me looking different every time, taking on a different appearance, whether it was just through wigs and makeup or whether it was through genetic alteration to look like a different species for a while. And to me, it felt very natural to do that because I have had ET lifetimes where I was different people. I didn't look human all the time, and it was just so natural to me. I didn't think anything of it. It was just natural to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that goes back to my own pre-life memory with the Adronis energy as well too. Is just looking at myself as an ET, just being able to talk to, and again, a lot of these people I remember when I was talking to seemed human. I can't say if they were actually Earth human, but they were very humanoid in that way, very much similar to how we would look and appear. But I could just remember myself like it's kind of like I was looking outside of myself like a camera, and I could kind of see myself kind of turning my head, and I was smiling, and I was having a nice chat with somebody. But it felt like it was almost kind of like a trade hall, like a big gigantic auditorium with all these people. It was very, very brief. It only lasted me about 4 or 5 seconds before the memory left. But it was just me being able to talk to these people and look like a handsome guy, I gotta admit. It looked pretty good. But it was really, really amazing just being able to see a couple of these little small breadcrumbs of past memories pre-life. And again, this is kind of when I had that image of Adronis come through when I first started channeling him. That's where I kind of got that feeling. So this body looks familiar, this face looks familiar when I had that kind of impression of his silhouette, because it looked like Ashtar to me. That's what Adronis looks like. He looks a lot like Ashtar Sharon, right? But he's not. And you know, there are a lot of people who have had visions of Adronis that have come through and said, "Oh, is that Ashtar? Is that Ashtar?" No, it's Adronis. He wears a different type of uniform. If you were to kind of look at him in regards to a physical appearance that he would project to you, his would be kind of more silver and blue, kind of like blue stripes around the arms here, and more of a silver uniform, which is kind of interesting because I've had that kind of uniform in mind when I'm doing the inbound. But it represents that kind of familiarity, just being able to look at yourself in different ET perspectives, especially with a pre-life memory like that.
Yeah, exactly, because Ashtar has more of a chiseled face.
Yes.
And Adronis has more of an elongated face, longer face.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell right away, no, Adronis is not Ashtar. Adronis is more lean, and Ashtar is very muscled.
Yeah.
Muscle, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Have you guys, in your meetings with Ashtar, have you had a meeting with a being that goes by the I Am Commander or the I Am Director of the Ashtar Command?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Like, can you explain what you mean by I am?
Something about an I Am Commander, but I haven't heard of anything of that.
There's a being through Ashtar Command that I had an experience with that represented itself as the I Am, like the I Am Commander, like the I Am Director, and was the idea that came through was like it was someone that like Ashtar like was kind of would not report up to, but I don't like to look at things like in a hierarchical sense. So, but
right.
I'm very careful when a being just says I am. No.
Well, I looked in. I'm asking because I did some searching after the experience, and like there was like a couple things I did find that that.
You probably met Sananda. You probably met Sananda.
Yeah.
And
it may have been something
Sananda's
of
the one that's
a spiritual being, perhaps.
yeah.
The I am present is,
Yes.
I think that's Sananda you met. That's who you met.
Anyways, guys, we got to move on. We are going to move on because we're going to get into questions here in a bit. Justin, if you do have questions later on, you can ask them. But what I wanted to get into this final segment before we get into Q&A is there's been quite a few requests from people about living in fourth density, because this is something that people have been talking to me about and saying that, you know, is it possible, what's going to happen when we make the shift, when we transition into this new octave, when we move into this new reality that's happening at the end of 2016. So I'm going to cover that very, very briefly, and then we're going to be getting some questions from everybody here. So everybody who's tuning in right now, just go ahead and click on the Q&A app. And if you do have questions for Justin or Ileana or myself, you can go ahead and just write down your question and post it in the Q&A app. So with the living in fourth density, from again what a lot of what Adronis has shared, is that this is a very common natural evolution that happens upon a planet. Now, the reason why not everybody is able to go to fourth density is because they're just not in that particular type of vibratory alignment, but it is okay if you're not able to go into fourth density. Fourth density really is the density of stewardship. It's the density where you're being able to really work with the earth, you're working with the animals, you're working with nature, you're working with each other. And so not everybody can shift into this, because a lot of people, even from what we've seen from the Brexit situation as well too, are worried about their jobs, they're worried about their 9 to 5, they're worried about their financial situation, they're worried about their family, and the idea of being a steward to Earth doesn't appeal to them in that way. They just want to survive. So basically what I would say is the people that are very much those heavy survivors mentality folk will basically be remaining where they are in third density. For those of you in that sense that are very much more aligned to love, you could say that the common light worker, the common starseed, common rainbow worker in that particular way, is the official idea of a graduate that would move into fourth density. Now, for those of you, again, who feel that you're very much in survival, you want to do this, it's not the end game for you. You're still going to be existing in third density, but your relationship to the earth is going to be very different from those coming into fourth density. So for those people that are coming into fourth density who are much more heart-centered, who really just work together, and yeah, they still have challenges to go through, there's still going to be situations that we're going to work through. But basically, when you're moving into the shift, for most of the people that are moving into fourth density, you will not even know that you're there. That's basically how seamless this transition will be. You won't even know. It's the same thing about what happened in December 21st, 2012. Major stuff happened that day. A lot of us weren't even close to being aware to it. Basically, being able to see this singularity, our own universe, invert upon itself, and now see a feminine and a masculine reality become part of the entire equation of ourselves. A good friend of mine, a recent good friend of mine, who I'm going to be interviewing here in about a week and a half, Jim Gerard, has also been developing some great theories about this as well too, and I'm just amazed about what he's coming up with, because it's almost identical to what Adronis and I have been sharing. But when you're living in fourth density, you really are, again, of service to the earth. You're of service to your fellow man, woman, and child. You're working more so together with the animals. You're working together with nature. You're being able to function more as this natural steward. Now, you're still going to have particular types of careers. You're still going to be working with money in certain forms of ways. There still will be certain forms of transitional effects about what we have done in third density that you're moving up into the fourth, and you're still carrying that with you. But it's not anywhere near as a heaviness pertaining to what a third density being is holding on to themselves. So if you're looking at a third density being who's carrying 10 bags of really heavy, horrible stuff in that way, you may only have about 4 or 5, right? And you're carrying that into fourth density because there's still going to be some challenges that you're going through. But basically, a lot of people right now are telling me that they're having muscle problems, they're having symptoms with their body, they're feeling this acceleration of energy that's so powerful. What's going on? This is all part of a transitional effect. This is you being able to peel off energetic layers of skin so that you're able to move into a fourth density nexus. So this is basically what's happening with a lot of us. I've certainly been feeling it as well too. Nothing in regards to horrible symptoms, but I've certainly been feeling the shift of energies, kind of like seeing these ripples in the pond and moving into fourth density. So when you're in fourth density, yes, you're still going to be going through certain forms of systematic processes, and you're transitioning past that from a third density into a fourth density life. So again, Adronis has stated that between the fall and the winter time of 2016, this will be our entry point, not the full immersion, but the entry point into fourth density. It's kind of like we're peeking our heads through the curtain, and we're able to now just start to walk ahead of the curtain now and getting a glimpse of what fourth density represents. But there still is quite a bit of time before fourth density in regards to our planetary consciousness is fully established when it relates to humankind. That probably will not be for another 2 or 3 generations. As Adronis said, approximately around the time of 50 to 100 years. It could be a little bit more than that as well too. But basically, this is where we're going, and we're moving into that. So when you're living in fourth density, yes, you're going to feel a little bit lighter. You're going to feel that some things are just, you're almost going to let go of time in that way. You're just feeling that you're in these sequences of events that are speaking to you louder than the idea of the restriction of time that is assigned to them on a man-made level. So you will become more aware of events. You will become more immersed in the idea of the sequence of event altogether. you will feel a little bit more lighter. You will feel that there's a little bit more of a floating energy in you. You may feel that you may be able to pick up different hues of color spectrums within the spectrum band of colors within our planet. Being able maybe to see lighter blues, lighter violets, lighter yellows, whatever it may be. People can have that particular type of visual acuity aspect. You will feel that your intuition is speaking to you a lot more, whether you are conscientious of it or not. So you'll actually be able to feel much more of this intuitive energy becoming much more prominent within you. That's a boost that you're getting. But it's not so much in the idea that you're being cut off from third density. You're not. You're not being cut off from anything, because understand that our own elements of the planet are first density. The animal and plant kingdom is a second density platform. We interact with that. We interact with the elements. We will interact with third density beings. And third density beings will be able to interact with fourth density beings. Okay, so that is not going anywhere. I really want to put that to rest right now, because there are a lot of questions, a lot of people coming up to me with a lot of fear and saying, oh my God, Brad, I feel like my parents are going to be left behind. I feel like my children are going to be left behind. You're not leaving anybody behind. I can totally assure you right now. You're still going to be having that particular experience. This is a commingling. This is looking at a ladder with 4 rungs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? They will all correlate together with each other. But fourth density humans have a very different job from third density. So basically what we call the light worker, what we call the mystic, what we call the master, the spiritual master, all of those particular forms of definitions that can represent those type of people are the essential graduates that are moving into fourth density. So again, I really can't tell you what to expect because I haven't experienced fourth density yet, right? I'm only basically regurgitating here what Jonas has shared. This is just basically something that I wanted to share with everybody because there's been a lot of questions. What I am going to do is I'm going to put up an FAQ article up on realitywhisperer.com either today or tomorrow that says frequently asked questions about fourth density. Okay, and so I'll probably be adding to that article quite a bit. But just a lot of people are very excited about this, and there are people who are panicking as well too because they don't feel that they can make the shift. And then I start talking to these people, and these people are wonderful, bright, beautiful, loving people, and I said, you have nothing to worry about, right? And I try to put this in the best terms that I can, but guys, I don't have all the answers, right? It's that I'm only giving a piece of the portion that I'm being given with Adronis, and Adronis can only share so much as well too, pertaining to all of this. I feel that there's a big shift coming. I feel that we're moving into a new octave of dimension of density, and I'm not outbursting by this in any ways. I'm just kind of playfully sharing with everybody that I don't have all the answers pertaining to the fourth density. We really just have to see until we get there, and then you can really feel it out for yourself. Because again, as I stated, there will be people who won't even know that they're actually in fourth density. There will be people who will be completely oblivious to the feeling that they're now a fourth density being. Because what they will still create is a third density matrix in some form. As they move into fourth density, that will become a little bit lighter and it's stripping down, but it's something that's permissible to happen. And then as you start to move into the fourth density energies, you'll start to see how it is indeed very, very different. It will take some time to really acclimatize yourself to that particular type of dimensional reality. But this is basically where we're all going. So all I can say is that when I'm in it a little bit more, I'll give you my feedback. Right now, all I can say from my own personal experience is that I feel a lot lighter. I feel like I have a lot more energy. A lot of aspects of me are changing. I'm feeling a lot more physical. I'm starting to work out a lot more. I'm starting to get more into eating right, eating healthy. I feel a lot more lighter. Just everything around me feels like it's a beautiful hue of deliciousness in that way. It just feels like reality is becoming wonderful and delicious and amazing. That's just my own particular perspective because I feel like I'm putting my foot into fourth density right now. To me, I feel like I'm already there. But Jonas says the official shift will take place around probably a couple of weeks or exactly on the autumnal equinox coming up here in September. So we'll start to feel that kind of foot in the door moving into fourth density. So that is what I wanted to share with everybody before we go into questions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the Q&A app, and we're going to start with our first set of questions here. This question is for Ileana. It's from B. Rockwell. And he asks, Ileana, I've heard you speak in the past about altering having DNA altered more of that of certain ET species. I've had dreams of turning into a mantis being. Would you say that this is an SSP-related issue, or is it something just as an ET interaction?
It could be either or. It could be an SSP interaction, or it could be you remembering yourself being a mantid ET being. It's really, you have to go into that dream state and ask yourself, what is this? Ask yourself some questions. Was I an ET being? Was I a mantis? Is that a lifetime I'm remembering? Or am I remembering some moments from the SSP? That I was in the SSP and I had a mantid interaction. I had interacted with a mantid. You have to ask yourself, what is this? I can't really answer that because I'm not you. I can only do a hypothesis. So if you can, go back into that dream, have a closer look, see what you can see around yourself. What was the interaction? How did it happen? Why? Ask yourself what and the why, and that'll help you to figure out if that was an SSP experience or that was an experience of you being a mantid ET or having something to do with mantid ETs.
Yes, and I've actually had an experience with a friend of mine, a friend of a friend, who's basically showed me a picture of a fellow, and he is actually transforming into a mantis being physically. Now, it's not so much of him having the insectoid exoskeleton or anything that way, but the way he is able to bend his arms, bend his limbs, is pretty much identical to that of a mantis being. Basically, what I would say about this is that this is not always an SSP issue. Actually, I don't think it even has anything to do with it. It feels more so on the idea that this is a type of an amalgamation effect. Now, Adronis has talked about this quite extensively, that there is an amalgamation effect. You can also refer to it as a Mandela effect as well, too, about people actually being able to merge with another parallel self, or in that sense, many different parallel selves, and being able to feel this particular type of energy bonding that's taking place. So my feeling to you, Ben, because again, Ileana gave you really great advice here, but my advice as well too is, really being able to look into that and understand that this is a version of yourself that is merging together with yourself. It's more so in the idea that you are retrieving psionic memory, and that this psionic memory is helping you to reconnect with this particular type of mantis being. So you've had these dreams in that sense, but dreams are a great platform to receiving this type of psionic memory. And so it feels like that is coming back, and it feels like this being is ready to converge back together with you in forms of memory and in regards to stature. So I feel that that is basically part of an amalgamation effect that is coming together for you. So thank you so much for your question. We have another question here from Summer Nova, and she asks a question to Ileana. The extra or the background or the stand-in people. What is the meaning behind this with a copy of ourselves here on Earth? Is it really a physical copy of ourselves? I mean, in height and so on.
It can be a physical copy of ourselves, and sometimes we have multiple missions on the planet or elsewhere. So that's why we make up backup copies of ourselves to be able to do these missions, because our soul is divided into many sparks and many different slivers. It's like imagine a pizza pie, if you will, in different slices. You take different slices and you give it to somebody else, right? So the slice is now somewhere else. Now bring that back to the soul. The soul has all these different pizza slices that are doing something, interacting with elsewhere. There's you, and there's other yous, those pizza slices elsewhere that are doing important work. So you can copy yourself because you can be in more than one place at the same time. You can be in multiple places. That's why we're called multidimensional beings, because we're capable of replicating ourselves physically and etherically on different dimensions. You could have a physical copy of yourself, you could have a light body copy of yourself elsewhere on multiple dimensions and multiple realities doing this work, because you're accomplishing one thing, the other half of you is accomplishing something else somewhere else that's very important. And then you all, once your lifetime ends, you bring it all together as part of the whole experience. And you see what else you want to learn or don't want to learn. We're all learning as we make copies of ourselves. It's part of the learning experience.
Yes, exactly.
To bring it all together as one being eventually.
Yeah, you got it. And what I've also discovered as well too is that the Earth will basically act as this particular type of engine that will manufacture a projection of your body again to function as a type of stand-in. So basically, in that sense, it is something that is being spliced from our own conscious awareness, or rather unconscious awareness, and being able to put this aspect of us together. Because again, we're kind of looking at ourselves as if we were to go into a dream plane and we see all these subconscious projections. If we were to dream right now, off in dream world, and being able to be in front of this crowd of thousands of people, basically what would happen, you would probably have quite a lot of people that you have bumped into subconsciously, just walking down the street, not paying them any mind, that actually appear in this particular scene. Well, the Earth will do the exact same thing. She will replicate your own body as a hologram, and she will actually put you as a stand-in in regards to another person's subconscious, because your energy vibrates in resonance of compatibility for you to actually function as that stand-in that is subconsciously moving through that person's awareness. And this has happened to me many times as well, too. I've thought I bumped into people who I thought I knew who looked exactly like them, and they had no clue of who I was talking about. So this does happen. Sometimes you may even get a little bit of minor altercations in regards to facial features as well, too. That's just all part of the idea of the subconscious aspect. But the Earth works as an engine, and she will actually basically take these energies of different people on the planet and put them as projections. Now, these are basically what I've also talked about in regards to holographic projections in that way, is that basically people will walk around the streets as holograms. And I had an ex-girlfriend once when we were in Hawaii, and there was this person that was walking right past her, and she was able to see this person glitch like a hologram, just being able to walk past her. Now, this does happen. There are basically just, they are representing a tether pertaining to spirit, but they are basically just projections. They are just basically walking through, and they have no particular form of essential mass pertaining to that person's conscious awareness. They're just there in regards to that physical vehicle serving some type of purpose to walk past you in that particular way. And that's it. You could even turn your head, and all of a sudden, bam, that person is gone, right? So this does tend to happen in regards to, just much in regards to how our energies are evolving on the planet as a collective consciousness, basically looking into our own singularity and being able to look into the collective consciousness as well too, seeing these stand-ins, seeing these living extras and backdrop people that will just function as holograms and serve a certain purpose in the background. So again, very good point there as well. So I found it fascinating because Adronis revealed this information in a video. And I found out a few days later when Dolores Cannon was still here, she released something as well too, talking about background people in an interview. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Adronis just talked about this, and she's talking about it now. So to me, that was fantastic. Let's go into another question. Okay, this one's addressed to me. It says, hello, Brad. Are the ancient reptilian Dracos still on Earth, Antarctica, or have they left the planet? Well, basically, I'm going to get Ileana to comment on this in a few minutes here as well. Basically, what I've received is that there's been kind of like an awakening call. You know, a lot of these particular Draco realize that their empires are fragile right now, and many of them have left the planet. I can't say for sure if 100% of them have left, but I'm feeling a lot of the ones who have had a lot of stroke relating to the idea of the Draco Empire influence on Earth have basically, in that sense, attempted to leave, or some of them may be above the planet in orbit and still attempting to wreak some havoc, like basically what Ileana was talking about a while back in one of our earlier interviews, that there was a Draco ship trying to sabotage an area around Vancouver Island, BC, Canada, and basically an Andromedan ship had to intervene and destroy that particular ship, and that was part of the earthquake that we felt as well too. So, Ileana, what do you feel in regards to that? Have the Draco left the planet?
There's a few pockets of Draco. There's a little bit in Antarctica because the Cabal is transferring their essential personnel to Antarctica right now. Mm-hmm. So there are some Draco, but they're not the important Dracos. The important ones are off planet. They're more in space now because they don't want to be here when all of it goes down for them. They don't want to be.
It kind of feels like the riffraff are basically remaining behind.
Yeah, the riffraff are around and they're still here, and sometimes they want to cause trouble. Like last year, they were heading on their way out to the Rocky Mountains to destroy a newly opening portal. So they were traveling underwater, then they were going to warp. They're going to open up a gateway and, travel through that to the Rocky Mountains. So that's what their plan was, but other people had other ideas. Nope, you're not going to destroy these natural portals. We're going to disarm you, and we're going to clean you up and take you off-world for basically, either to be, to clean them up, because Draco have so much negativity in them, implants, and so in touch with the AI, but they can be cleansed of all of that. Actually, Girkfit near one of the care ships had one of the Draco and a Cabal who was altered, physically altered. He's human, but he had a lot of ET DNA in him. They were in these healing tanks. They were being cleansed and healed of all the programming, of all the AI.
Yes.
Given a second chance, basically, to see if they want to reform or not.
And I've received quite a bit of reports and confirmation with that as well too. Is that there's when we look at Draco, a lot of people want to go into fear but there's also been that feeling that there's been a lot of Draco who have really transcended past those old paradigms about just basically getting off the AI prophet regime and not feeling that they need to contaminate themselves with AI and that they're all about conquest and vanquishing free will. There are many different forms of Draco groups that have disbanded from those empires and are basically working together with the light. So there's a lot of different forms, and this is why I say that you never judge a particular civilization based on the race, because we'd have a horrible time if that happened. And it's basically just looking at there are many different connections, even like what Justin was talking about with his connections with the Draco. Some very harmonized Draco as well too, working together in that way. So it's all about being able to look into the individual, not feeling that there needs to be some type of collective idea that, oh my God, they're Dracos, so they must be horrible. Being able to work past the idea of anything that may be considered as cosmic racism. So, very good point there as well. Go ahead.
A lot of green-gray Dracos on the planet. Not a lot, like a couple of hundred, and that's what was on the ship, underwater ship, green-gray Dracos. It's
and
more.
That's the warrior class, right?
Yeah, warrior class. So they're not the most. They're just following orders and doing what they're told. They're not really thinking for themselves. They're mostly just following orders. So those are the ones that are typically still pockets of them left around here on the planet. The other ones, they just want out of here. The bosses, the Draco bosses, the ones that are 20 feet and taller with wings and stuff, they just all want out of here as soon as possible. And they're being told, you know what? You're stuck here. You did this to yourself, you're stuck. If you don't want to reform,
with what you created.
Yeah, you have to. You either evolve or you're not going to exist after all of this is done.
Exactly.
So your choice. You made it. Now you live with it.
Exactly. Well, here's a very interesting question from Stephen Helms. He asks, how far has the secret space program ventured out in space?
They've ventured out to other solar systems, and they have colonies beyond the solar system. They basically they're all the way in the Andromeda Galaxy and beyond.
So they have actually crossed transgalactic barriers.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. I've seen them I've seen them in the Andromeda Galaxy. The SSPs have quite a few colonies out there.
Are there even like other galaxies beyond Andromeda that they've touched as well?
The Dark Fleet has, because they have a lot of the advanced technology. I wouldn't say the local SSPs, they're based a lot in the Andromeda Galaxy, but the Dark Fleet, the ones that work with the ICC, they've branched out beyond in the Andromeda Galaxy.
Very interesting. All right, we have another question here from Bonnie. Bonnie asks, since this past April, I have been speaking what I perceive to be various light languages. It used to be sporadic. Now it is an ongoing daily occurrence. Can Adronis, for anyone on the panel, tell me who I am communicating with, as I haven't a clue? Well, I'm not going to channel Adronis just at this particular time, Bonnie, but what I can say is that even he would basically say that he would need to hear a sample of the language in order for him to give you an idea of it. So as we're not able to really communicate through audio, we really can't tell. But there's a lot of different species that work together in the state of light languages. You have Syrians, you have Pleiadians, you have Arcturians, you have Andromedans, you have Lyrans. You have many different types of beings that go through that. So I would basically need to hear a sample of the type of language that you are speaking. And maybe even Ileana as well too could share on that as well too, because she speaks many different languages in regards to ET dialects. But once we hear the language, then we're able to give you a little bit more of a comment on that.
Yeah, it's very individualistic in terms of maybe your galactic star family is trying to make contact with you, and they're speaking in that light language, and you're trying to understand what it is. So, like Brad said, audio sample would be needed to try to figure it out. And even with an audio sample, sometimes we could maybe figure out, sometimes we couldn't. It's very individually based.
Yeah. Yeah, even like, with Ileana and her amazing ability, and even with my ability to connect with Adronis as well too, there will be times where I do need samples. There will be times where we really need to kind of look more deeper into what people are talking about. The reason being is because this is all part of a free will effect. Is being able to really have you go a little bit deeper in regards to what you're asking. So even if it relates to the idea of questions about your own life, sometimes Adronis will probe and say, tell us more about it. Because there needs to be this further extension of free will. It's not to say that Adronis can't answer your question, or Ileana can't answer your question. It's more so in the idea that there needs to be this permission of probing, and being able to probe a little bit more of this information, so that there can be a green light that represents the free will in regards to the specificity that you're asking for, so that information of this nature can be brought forward. So it's not in that sense attempting to avoid answering the question. It's just that a little bit more data is required before, even intuitively, psychically, psionically, being able to answer your questions. Let's move down to another one. Let's see here. Okay. Just for records, guys, if you guys just have questions, please make sure you put on the questions. I'm glad you guys are doing statements and stuff like that, but that's better just left for chat. There's just quite a few statements in here. Please don't do that. If you just have questions, make sure you put the questions in the list here. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so we're going to end on this particular question. Could you please share your perspectives about the floating city that has been reported seeing in China, UK, United States? Ileana, have you heard about that? About a floating city, like a hologram?
Yeah, I've heard about floating cities. It could be from, it could be a residual from another universe coming in that you're seeing. You're seeing another timeline aspect of a future event, like future floating cities. It could be future or it could be present. Just you might be seeing something from another timeline that's currently happening, and that's in that reality, and you're seeing a bit of a hologram of that. Or it could even be a spaceship that looks like a floating city. Holographically, anything can be projected out in the skies for us to see. So you really got to ask yourself, what exactly am I seeing here? Is this really a floating city? Is it a paradigm of a parallel universe timeline that's coming in? Is this a holographic ship that's being projected, or is this a really physical object that's really there for a minute and then it winks out? Because there are floating cities. Ashtar Command has crystal light cities that float out it's on a planet, right? You have a planet and you have these floating cities, light cities floating around in the sky. So it's real. Light cities are real.
Yes. And that's what I've received as well too. As there's times where there's just basically like Project Bluebeam will actually just beam stuff into the sky as well too, and that can be some of these particular visions we've seen. Or there can be more genuine occurrences as well too, is actually being able to see these cycles of shifts of different parallel Earths that have these different types of cities that may just come ahead, like if you're looking beyond the water and you start seeing these particular cities coming about. Jonas has commented and saying that that was actually a very genuine projection that was coming through, because there was an altercation of a cycle, and a cycle was basically ending, and that's how the city eventually disappeared. So we're basically at times when these are genuine, is being able to shift into different realities, seeing different parallel Earths, being able to cross into a different type of reality. That is more so the idea of our own indigenous collective Earth, but being able to kind of see these transitions of other cities and other different forms of civilizations that come here and there. So very good, very good. Justin, did you have any final questions for Ileana and myself before we wrap up?
No, actually, I just wish to express my deepest, most heartfelt gratitude, appreciation for inviting me and offering this opportunity for myself and others. And it really means a lot to me. It helps a lot.
Oh, we thank you for joining the show today as well, too, Justin. Thank you so much for that. And of course, Ileana, thank you so much for joining us as well, too. Ileana, did you want to share your website for everybody?
Sure, it's called Messages from a Star Traveler. You can Google it and find it quickly, or you can go to my Awakening Cosmic Reality show on my YouTube channel. And I post a lot of different interview videos, presentations, so that's where you can find me.
Great, excellent. Justin, how about you? Do you have a website that you want to share?
I have on Facebook. I have my Diamond, Crystal, and Hearts group, and then on YouTube I have my own little channel, JC Ariel, Ariel, Ybarra, Ybarra, or you can reach me on my email, ybarrajustin@gmail.com. And I'm around, and I'm also working to build a place in Hawaii here for people to be able to come and visit long-term, short-term, and be able to kind of live off-grid and be able to experience the island.
Great. Sounds great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you everybody for tuning in today. We've had a really amazing audience today. Just saying right now we have over about 122 viewers. So that's fantastic. I'm very happy to see that this information is becoming well received. And you know, we're going to some really amazing changes happening up here. Again, moving into fourth density Earth, seeing these particular types of shifts as they happen. All I can say is continue to spread your love, guys. You know, like I'm just one of many different forms of sources that are sharing this information as we're moving in. And I love everything that I do, and I love talking to people like Ileana and to Justin and having all of this really great information being shared. But like I said, I'm just one puzzle piece. I'm just one piece of this puzzle being fit into this very large picture. And so, you know, if you are still curious about, you know, the idea of living in fourth density, again, I will post a Q&A article that I will post to this video description of this event today. And you guys can check it out. And if you guys do have some more questions about fourth density, please feel free to share it with me, as that can be added to the article as well too. But I just get a lot of people who are really excited about moving into this new shift, and a lot of people who are scared. So I just wanted to say that it's okay, it's all right. You are exactly where you need to be. You know, the whole idea is the more that you open up your heart, the more that you live in the moment, the more that you are of service to yourself and you're of service to others, the more that you are in that alignment of this incredible shift. And even if you're a third density, that's okay. You're still going to have a human body. You're still going to be living. You're still going to have a lot of experiences ahead of you. And for those of us who are, you know, working the light worker energy, the mystic energy, the spiritual mastery energy, all of that particular type of energy, the love energy, just pure love in that way, and that you're more aligned to improving yourself and to complementing yourself, knowing that you have challenges and you're continuing to walk into that particular direction. That's what it's all about, is just being able to continue to do that, and this means your graduation into fourth density, because that's showing the world, that's showing the earth that you're ready to become a steward. So it's a very, very exciting time. So I want to thank everybody again for the questions, and thank you so much for tuning into this month's edition of the Inside the Secret Space program. So again, we will be coming back around the time of early to mid-August for the next episode. So thanks again, Ileana, thanks again, Justin, and thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Namaste.